Virtually everyone agrees that longevity is no longer a risk. It's a predictable fact for most. But what insurers hardly realize is that aging is also a powerful source of economic growth. Clearly, there are two sides to the aging and longevity coin: challenges and opportunities. It's not all gloom and doom. The 60-plus generation is not only the fastest growing consumer group, they also enjoy increasingly higher spending power. According to McKinsey, the silver segment will represent 60% of consumption growth. And, according to the European Commission, Europe's silver economy is currently the third largest in the world, worth 5.7 trillion euros by 2050. The silver economy is a golden opportunity. So, what can the latest tech do to help insurers tackle the aging and longevity challenge? And what are the keys to unlock the potential of the silver economy? Sabine van der Linden is the host, investigating all these questions in the talk show The Silver Surge: What can insurers do for an aging population?
Hi everyone, welcome to The Silver Surge: What can insurers do for aging population? I love the introduction from Roger. He's stolen all my lines, so I will reduce what I was going to say as an introduction. So both an aging population and increasing longevity can have significant impact on society, such as changes in healthcare needs, workforce demographics, and social welfare systems. The world's oldest population continues to grow at an unprecedented rate. 10% of the population is over 65 years old. And actually, when you look at the numbers, 70% in the United States and 19% in Europe. The country with the oldest group include Japan, Italy, Greece, Portugal, and Spain. So as Roger said, we are talking here about longevity and aging, but the silver economy is a phenomenon. The 60-plus generation is not only the fastest growing consumer group, they also have high consumer power. And as per the McKinsey research, this represents 60% of consumption growth. So let's do a bit of introduction, because Roger didn't do the introduction, so I think it's important to know who we have here. So I'm going to start with Tiffin.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Wang. I'm a partner at MS&AD Ventures. We're an early stage fund backed by Mitsui Sumitomo and Naiwene Seidoa, large Japanese insurance conglomerate. We have presence in about 50 different countries. We invest all over the world with the exception of Japan.
Hi, I'm Reza Khorshidi. I'm a PI at University of Oxford. I research machine learning and medicine, particularly personalized risk models and the study of multimorbidity. Until recently, I was a chief scientist at AIG, where I was heading investments AI, which was an ML product unit for liability and asset management side of the business.
My name is Joseph Liu from Legal & General. My job title is Director of Longevity Science, and I'm responsible of working out the life expectancy of annuities books.
Welcome to you all, Reza, Joseph, and Tiffin. So the first topic, we are going to break this afternoon in three groups of questions. And so I'm going to start with the first group, which is the face of the new aging customer is changing, right? She or he is looking for more education, transparency on the financial services choices which are available to him or her. So I'm going to start with Tiffin. Can you are collaborating with a lot of organizations and you are building an ecosystem, Tiffin. What are the challenges faced by individuals with the age of 50 plus? And I have a favor to ask you. Can you ask how many people are over 50 in the room when you answer the question? So who, 50 and over, and what does that mean compared to the younger group of the population?
So, how many of you are aging?
Over 50.
No, just aging.
Okay.
I wanted to see if they're paying attention.
So we are aging.
Just
we are
some,
aging,
some,
right?
some people are not aging. So how many people here are over 55? Small handful. So, one of the things that Sabine and we were talking about was actually just shifting, on what is actually happening for 55. When we talk about aging, we think, 55 is quote unquote old, right? But as a child, as a teenager, and growing up into adulthood, our life has been extremely structured. There's a sort of a milestone that we generally want to hit. And then after we hit sort of that retirement age, there's actually a lot less structure. And one of the things that I've been trying to have people think a little bit differently is, why not give more programming for adults 55 and over, right? Retirement can now be extended much longer to, over 100 years old. So you have a whole nother life that you could potentially live. So just having a reframe of, what it means to age.
Yeah, and we're talking about it. I'm coming to you, Joseph, actually,
okay.
Right? You're working for LNG and you're building great product and services for people over 50, right? And it would be great to hear from you. What does that mean in terms of the fact that we need to save, we need to invest, we need to be insured as well, but also plan for retirement?
Yes. Thank you. You started off by saying the phase of aging. This is it, yeah? But you may know that there's a big movement on healthy aging. It's not good to just age and then unhealthy. And they group people above age 50 in one bracket. That means that I'm 51, they're putting me and my mother in the same group. I don't know about your mother, I'm sure they're loving, but my mother will say, get out of my age bracket. So I'm going to divide your questions into three chunks. What do we need, people like me? I'll put it at the first phase, which is balancing saving and spending from 50 to 60 to retirement. There's a complex balancing. It's not just about saving. Then what? The children will starve, And we need to look at this age group. You're not just helping them, but they are also supporting the generation after and before them, right?
Yeah.
Children, education, parents will need. They can't read, and they ask all the complicated questions about IT. So we need to balance between saving and spending, which is a complex, and then there will become a time of retirement, like it or not, because of how retirement saving will dictate us to decide, are you going to continue to work half-time, part-time? There's a decision time, it's a complex package there. And then, of course, following that, there will be about, is it a working retirement? What do you do with your time? Leisure, and eventually the challenges of health. So you asked about what do insurance company do? We do the whole suite. We help people save conveniently. You can say, I want to save 5%, matched by employees 10%. We do all those things for you. We have different advice and options and products when they retire. Okay, you can buy annuities, you can take a part of cash out, or you can withdraw little bits of money over time. Once they retire, there's annuities. There are also lifetime mortgage. They may be asset rich, and they will say, I want to liquidate 30% of my asset, change my carpet, change my bathroom configuration and all that, because they need that. We have that. And eventually there's the end of life. They need care home and move out, and they need money, certainty in money. So we have those type of products for them.
Thank you. And as you were talking, actually, Joseph, I was remembering some of the things we were talking about with Tiffin just yesterday. I don't think I'm going to retire before I'm probably 70. I would probably have different jobs. I'm already on board, so I would probably continue to be on board, attend my board meeting from wherever I am in the world. So I will probably continue earning until I'm very old and try to be really, really active, probably be a silver economy player, even with my dark black hair, until quite late. But Reza, coming to you, we talk about a society which is aging. We have people who are healthy, running, and continuing to be really productive, but also have those with chronic diseases. So when we look at the different segments of the population, how should we address them? Knowing that you look at a lot of data and work with AI.
Well, I mean, there is an element of it which is around the needs, which is what Joseph was talking about. They might be asset rich and in need for some form of liquidity. So therefore, some sort of a combination around protection products, pension products, mortgage products, and so on, to kind of provide them with some sort of solution tailored to their needs definitely is an interesting story. But then on the medical aspects of it, medical research, epidemiology of aging, and so on, it's a very interesting story in a sense that when you think about the science of risk and so on around aging people, definitely there are a group where you can have more certainty about. So in a way, a lot of people start to show signs of what we call multimorbidity by around 40, 50, 60, and so on, which means we have got a very rich amount of data, which means you can start to make more accurate predictions about them. On the other hand, the category that doesn't have that sort of data, it means that usually they're not that risky. In epidemiology, they say their age is their only risk factor. So in a way, if you haven't had any diseases by the age 40, 50, 60, and so on, you're likely to not have diabetes at age 60. So you're past that phase. So in a way, there's a lot of these sort of probabilistic stories that you could take into account and offer, bring the medical science more precisely, more appropriately to the picture, to not be scared of every 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, because if somebody's asking for a 10-year term post 50, I mean, that's not really a scary thing for a lot of population, because a lot of them are healthy and they're not likely experiencing any sort of a medical risk. It might, the average accidental death and so on aside, there's a lot of science that backs up that group is no different than a 40-year-old or a 20-year-old. So therefore, as far as a 10-year term is, for example, concerned and so on. So I think from a medical science perspective, there's a lot of traditional data that helps us not be scared of age, because if the horizon is 10, 20, 30 years, a 50, 60-year-old, for a lot of the risk, a lot of the portion of that above 50, 60 could still be the same way treated as a 20 and 30. But of course, it's a little bit hard to kind of sell that to underwriting manuals today, because they're going to load price to it. But really, for a 5-year risk, it's indifferent. So yeah, I think it needs to be a lot more closer collaboration between what's the latest scientific finding, what does the data tell us, versus what we see in underwriting manuals.
So I will continue on that specific topic, right? Because the first area I wanted to dive into was digitization, ethical use of data, and then the metrics that we need to capture to drive impact and probably change behavior. And what I was thinking when we were talking, Reza, is we talk about mortality and morbidity data, right, combined with medical data, and that to improve underwriting decisions. So there's a disconnect, and we need to address the disconnect. What do you think we could do to leverage that data better for improving the way we underwrite risk?
Yeah. So I think maybe I'm going to go for a little bit of a longer answer here.
Sure.
So let's start from what is insurance. So we were talking about it actually yesterday. So the definition I like about what is insurance is that it's the business of giving the risk to its optimal owner. So in other words, you have a risk, you don't feel comfortable carrying it, you want to give it to someone else because that someone else is a more optimal owner of that risk than you. So historically, insurance, because a risk for one person is hard to predict, but a risk for a population is a lot easier. So if you say, how many people in the UK are going to die this year, that number is almost predictable to near perfect. Whereas if you say, what's the probability of this individual dying, it's a very hard one to predict. And could be dying, could be getting a disease or whatever. So the definition of optimal ownership of the risk became who can build a portfolio that is going to show predictable behavior. So in other words, the bigger your portfolio, the more optimal you are of the risk. That is okay if the risk is truly a random phenomena. So in other words, back in the day when there was no science, everybody dying was a mystery. Why did that person die? Today you look back and say, oh, of course, diabetic. Of course, some neurodegenerative diseases, but back in the day, everything was a mystery. So as time went on, mysterious death became attributable to certain causes. It's due to high blood pressure. It's due to inactivity. It's due to various other causes that we know in medical science today. So in a way, if we act as if we are still decades ago, then we are really questioning our optimal ownership of the risk in the insurance industry. So in other words, historically, we were the optimal owner of the risk because the risk was a mystery, and therefore we became optimal because we could pool the risk together. Now, the risk is not a mystery. We can scientifically explore it and say, oh, these guys are this risk, these guys are this risk. This is what the prediction is going to tell us about them. So therefore, I think the definition of optimal ownership of the risk is shifting towards who is better at understanding of the risk. One level further, you could argue that the optimal ownership of the risk is who is better at stopping the risk from getting worse, mitigating the risk, or preventing the claim, and so on. So therefore, if you think about risk was a mystery, pooling was the optimal ownership, then you go further, you say, well, it's not a mystery, we can understand it, then understanding is the optimal ownership. Then you go further, you say, well, actually it's reversible, then being able to reverse is the optimal ownership. So across those three levels, look at the industry now and say, who is doing that? So back to your point about ethical use of data and so on, I think data can help us a lot to go from level 1 to level 2, to go from, I can pool, so you should trust me, I'm the optimal owner of your risk. I could come further and say, well, I can actually tell you more about where you are in the risk spectrum. You might there's a research by Bain, called their Loyalty Report 2023 or something. And in that one, they looked at data from 20,000 people across 8-9 geographies. And they were asking people about what is the big thing you expect your life insurer to tell you. And pretty much majority of them across all demographics, they were telling them something around 50%. They were saying that they want their insurer to give them risk services. And if not, they're happy to switch or pay more to the same insurers to get that service. So in a way, ethical use of data, there seems to be demand for it. They seems to be surfacing more and more. Also, it's aligned with the core notion of being the optimal owner of the risk. And also the science of it is also more and more emerging. So we are seeing paper after paper that says physical activity risk to CVD risk, physical activity risk to cancer risk, and so on. So I think there's a big opportunity for insurers to reestablish themselves in this new definition of optimal ownership. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of it happening, but I think I'll be surprised if these boundaries are not going to be refined in the next few years. So it should be, actually.
Cool. So Tiffin, I would love for you to address some of those points, but I know as, I would say, an economist, you also look at data, information in terms of life stages. And also, it would be helpful if you could tell us how we can address the role of digital literacy amongst people who are probably older, right, who cannot use a mobile device potentially. Yep. What scenario could we look at? What examples have you seen?
Yeah. So, in our portfolio, we've built out, we have about 100 investments in our portfolio now, and we have a small handful of them in health. We do like seeing the convergence of actually health and financial services, because the reality is, as humans, right, it's much better to look at the person like holistically. But we think that the advancement of technology can really support people living a lot healthier. We have a portfolio company, for instance, called Bina, and they just scan your face, and then they'll be able to tell how you're doing from a health perspective. In the past, you might go to the doctor when you're younger, it's once a year. If you're older, maybe 2-3 times a year. But imagine every time you turn on the phone or every time you turn on the laptop, they're just going to do a screening automatically. Suddenly, this technology enables you to collect so much more information, right? So when you catch some illness or disease, or maybe if your phone told you, say, hey, you're pushing yourself too far, it's time to rest, and it's nudging you into a healthier direction, that changes your life over time. Right? And so we're seeing more and more of these type of technology being embedded into the electronics. I actually think it's the responsibility of the technology builder to make it easier for people to use. You know that people over a certain age don't like to use technology. You're trying to add 10, 20, 50 sensors in their house, it doesn't work. So it's the innovators and the entrepreneurs that should be working on making it easier for people of different populations to use. We have another portfolio company called Assured Allies, and what they do is they actually have they're targeting the 50 plus. There's two initial products. The one is for 50 plus, and they bundle it around sort of annuities or financial services, and they use AI to actually start predict who are the ones that are most likely going to potentially like fall in the bathtub, or maybe have some sort of illness, and actually push specific programs to them, right? And just really catch those illnesses earlier. The second product is they bundle together with long-term care, existing long-term care programs, and it's more of a preventative care, because it's not about how long you live, it's actually about the quality of life. Once you fall, do you really want to be bedridden for 10 years? Is that even really living, right? And one other thing that's not necessarily a technology play, but actually, and this is my personal opinion, do we have a right to die, right? Yes, now technology will allow us to live to 150. Do I want to live to 150?
Probably not, right? I mean, I don't know what it would look like. Maybe crypto, whatever it's called, right? You are frozen and then you come back to life. What does that mean for you, Joseph? No. Can you tell us from, you are building aging products, right? And data is important, understanding disease is important. How you use medical and clinical data and evidence, for example, when you build those products, responding, I guess, to what Tiffin and Reza are doing in the way we are using information to build better products and services.
I think we use that a lot. I can name two main products, which is the annuities and the later life, lifetime care products. To enter the market at the moment, we have a medical questionnaire. This is a market standard, and these they ask about. They cover at least 20 disease groups and their severity. It's not just about diabetes. Do you have it? It's about what is your HbA1c and what is your medical, what medicine do you take. So that is a requirement. So if you don't know this, don't play in the markets. The data that the market tend to use is, I can peel it like an onion. Firstly, we have our own data, whether it's healthy people or less healthy people. The next layer can acquire, can buy statistics and so on. And then the final layer would be the type you mentioned. There will be peer-reviewed journal, meta-analysis, auditable disease registry, diabetes audit, cancer registry, and so on. So there will be people who use all these evidence and pull them together. What is difficult is that at the moment is that no one insurance company will have sufficiently large data to deal with the granularity that we want. You can deal with on average this and that. We don't have it, but as a result of that, we need to be able to draw in all this medical information. And we do have a wide range. You have three categories mentioned there. For example, the life expectancy of our customers could range between 5 to 25 years, depending on their medical conditions and how healthy they are. So we do have not just category, we have a gradient. So it's a smooth, can live 5 years and 5 years, 2 months, 5 years, 2 months, 2 weeks. It's that level of granularity that we have. We also use trend information because we know that people have lived longer, but although recently that improvement in death rates have slowed down, but we still need to project forward into the future for 60 years because we have people who are 40, and then you do need to set aside money for them until they're 120. We need to stress test, so we need to understand what are the potential breakthrough that can make people suddenly live very long. So we look into the anti-aging technology, diagnosis and treatments and changes in risk factors and healthcare. So we do look at medical data, statistics, and information from various angles.
Yeah. So looking at the people who are in the room, right? Insurers, reinsurers, brokers, insurtechs. I would love to go into some recommendation and things we are going to see, but would love to move into the future and what we could do. starting with you, Joseph.
What can we do?
You know,
Yeah.
looking at the new product and services, health,
Okay,
longevity, well-being, wealth management, how you see those products coming together?
I see this. We talk about aging trend. The aging trend is very slow. When we grow, we age 1 year at a time, and then UK populations, the average age would go up 1.5 years for every 10 years. It's very slow. But what is big now is this IT, and just look around, all the AI opportunities. I think between, say, 50 to 60, 65, there are opportunities for us to help them optimize their spending and saving and health together. We have a few providers here who help people engage with their health. If you say, I want to start running, then there are products that buy the right running shoes and measure all kinds of your fitness. Why don't we have something similar for finances? So if I want to know my finances, I need to look at the paperwork, the mortgage I'm paying, and then how much of that mortgage asset do I have? And if I want to know the pension that I put in, there's another piece of password I need to find out. Why don't we have something in one place, a super app or something? You mentioned super app a few weeks ago. So I think that is the opportunity that we can provide. And at the time of decision, what do I do with so-called retirement age? The range of options that's available out there, and how do I get connected with the right supplier providers, and how do we encourage innovation of products and services at that time? And then following so-called retirements, there's a range. There'll be a time they want to work or want to engage in more leisurely activities. And eventually, if multiple mobility kicks in, how do we keep them safe and have a fulfilling, retirement? I think we have the tech and different apps will be able to help us with that.
Superb. Tiffin, coming back to you. We talk about Bina, and I had my face scanned by Bina, actually, and I think I did okay. Then you mentioned Ashio that I also seen within your 90, venture portfolio, I could find, amazing, funding those companies have received. I also found Future Family. So when you look at all the portfolio of companies you are being invested into, how do you see the solution of the future for longevity aging, managing silver economy is going to come together? Are we going to find that super app?
So I think we have invested in a couple of different pieces, and it's serving different populations, right? Not everyone is. We have some products that are just for ultra high net worth individuals, but that only serves a certain population. You have people who maybe they understand that they need to be saving or they need to be, living healthier, but actually their life circumstances don't allow that. Right, so I think there needs to be some level of intervention. If you're sort of low income, what is sort of the standard? What are some of the things? Or is government going to come in to support for, like social services? And then you have sort of this pretty wide, average or normal population. What are some of those things that the average group of people should prepare? So some of it will be some technology that will lower the cost of care, right? Making it easier to save. So I think continuously to educate the population would be really helpful. And then actually the over 55, maybe it is taking on a second career, right? Maybe it's not going to be as ambitious, but you can take on roles to actually continue to save during that time. There might be some apps that can be built around that, and we're seeing actually even the intersection of the two generations, right? I think there's certain parts of Europe that does a lot better job of this, where they already have to deal with a much older population, where they're pairing young people with people who are older and doing things together.
And Reza, taking that question, final few moments, what do you see us doing by better leveraging data to actually shape those new offerings?
I think one of the examples I like to kind of in line with the answer to your question is that I'm not sure how many people went to Tesla's website to see their insurance equation, like the thing that is called safety score. So if you ask today an insurance company, what's your risk scoring equation or logic? It's a secret. You go to Tesla's website, and I can probably read it from the note that I took. So basically what they do is that they have got this thing called safety score. Safety score is based on what they call a collision frequency, the predicted collision frequency. And the inputs to that equation are basically hard braking, aggressive turning, unsafe following time, forced autopilot, disagreement, et cetera, right? So in a way, you see 7, 8 variables that is fully transparent to you, fully in control. You're fully in control of those variables. So in a way, that becomes the basis of your insurance premium on a Tesla car. So the question is, oh, I want to cheat. How are you going to cheat? You want to do less aggressive braking? Good, do it. Or, oh no, I want to cheat. I want to do, less aggressive turns. That's good, do it. So in a way, if we get to a world where you used to have a secret sauce that you have no way of becoming a better risk, and now you've got a transparent risk score that any way you want to cheat it, that's good, do it, because the car company is going to love it because they're going to have less accidents. So, and that's the big paradigm shift, that this is a company that generated real world evidence about the drivers of accident, of collision, and shared it transparently with the drivers, with the customers, and customers love it, and also they have control over driving the price by being healthier and so on. So equivalent of in the world of medicine could be something around the stuff you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, such as your sleep, such as your physical activity, such as, of course, there are factors that is beyond your control, that you could argue that not all risk is in your control. Same applies to the car. Like a bad driver could hit you, so that's not in your control. So in a way, risk could be broken down into pieces that are beyond your control and pieces that are in your control. On that one, I think the generation of real world evidence could become a big transformation mechanism that could come to the picture and give you more control, more transparency, more insights and advice in terms of how you could be better, and then you both benefit as an insurer and the customer, the risk. So it kind of interestingly, because that brings us to the world of science and evidence and so on, and I think in insurance industry there's a lot of good talk and so on, but usually it's very rare. Back in the day, a lot of epidemiology came on the back of insurance. Unfortunately, that trend almost died. We don't see enough of it these days. That if you look at AI, for example, top places for AI evidence, AI science, came on the back of places like NeurIPS, where in the past 10 years, it went from 200 authors to 2,000 authors, from 1,000 participants to 20,000 participants. So now everybody talks about AI, everybody sees the value of it in the day-to-day world and so on. So in a way, if you're talking about this sci-fi world of insurance where all the buzzwords are part of it, then you should ask the question, who is doing that sort of stuff? Who is doing the NeurIPS equivalent? How much science, how much tech is produced by insurance or in collaboration with insurance? Otherwise, it becomes just a talking point. And the same way that, for example, a company like Tesla could have a product that customers love, on the back of it offers an insurance product that is transparent to the customer and could make the customers happier, less risky, and so on. Why shouldn't that happen in medicine? Why shouldn't it happen in other kind of worlds? So I think that's a big question. That's a big trend that I think it's a good timing for insurance industry to start to say, what are we producing? What are we giving in the form of science to the world, that as a result of it, we could become a better absorbers of the risk, and somebody else could become a better risk, less claim, and so on. So I think it's exciting times. There's a lot happening. So it's about bringing the right talent to the industry to kind of do stuff like this. Otherwise, we'll be just talking about it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Longevity and aging is here. It looks like we have even little pills which will already help us live up to 150 years old. Still, we need to be healthy people, and we need to actually get access to the right product and services. But it sounds like it's all about behavioral change and asking the industry which is serving us to give us the data in a transparent way to make sure that everybody can be included in the process. So thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Reza. Thank you, Tiffin. Please, let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you.